Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of Powerbombshells. I'm Sam. That is Mel. You will notice that I am holding my microphone like I'm doing a telethon today. Our feud is still ongoing. It was causing a lot of issues before we even got started. We're even recording a little bit later than expected because, like, literally as I was like trying to sign in, it started like it was a hot mic, and I'm sure Mel did not appreciate that in her ears. I didn't appreciate it in mine. So I just decided that I'm the boss today.
I like it. I think you look like I have this vision of a thing that we probably don't have time for, but I have this vision of doing a parody histories mysteries about CM Punk with James and Kevin over at the Boom, where we could just you could like be the reporter at Mindy's Bakery.
Down.
There was like a little play up because I was like, we could make a bunch. I mean, because you do it with that style, but you make like, and I'm like, I know those guys have IRL like jobs and that they do this for fun and stuff like that. I have a little less pressing life, so I'm happy to make ridiculous looking memes and stuff if they're into that.
We can. That would be fun.
I just don't know if it'd be too dated because, like we talked about, it's like, does anyone really want to hear the name CM Punk anymore? Or, I mean, about the But I gotta say this real quick is that I'm wearing my Seahawks jersey. I wasn't going to do this, but then I saw what Garrett has got going on the network following our show, and Santa Clara sucks. Go Hawks. So I couldn't help myself. I saw the next broadcast on the thing. Yeah. I saw he was doing a 49ers thing. It was like, it's that time of year, people.
Yeah, I was,
I know that I will take equal shit in return from him and many others.
As long as you know that you're going to be, that he's going to dish it out too, then you're good.
But it's all in love. It's all in love.
And, I was
football season hate.
Was like the game is on. I'm still firmly in baseball mode. There's been I'm not a fan of David Tepper, and so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna wear my Panther shirt right now. I'm actually I don't know how well you can see it. I'll take a picture of it because it is a Stranger Things inspired shirt called Stranger Wings from the Ugly Ducklings, and I
love it.
Yeah, and they have so it was hard to choose a shirt from them because they've got a Care Bears theme shirt, and I love that shirt. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up watching Care Bears. I loved it. The original one's not this one that they've redone. Not that one. But and so they've got and they have like a Bob's Burgers themed one, and so it was hard to choose, but I've really wanted this one for a while, and I haven't. The Ugly Ducklings I've watched forever, and so they were at GCW a few weeks ago, and I hadn't talked to Rob Killjoy in a while, and he's a very good salesman, and I wasn't planning on buying merch, and I ended up with a shirt. My sister ended up with a shirt, so they're very good salespeople. They're good wrestlers. They're good people, so it works out.
I never feel, that's the one thing I'll say, especially at the indie shows, I never feel bad about ultimately caving and buying those shirts because I know that it's going and helping them get through the world.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I was like,
that I enjoy.
Yeah, I've known the Ugly Ducklings have wrestled for PWX they did for 4 or 5 years. They were champions for a while, and they're good people. And it was, and it was Lance's first GCW show since returning, since his cancer was in remission. And so it was so it was a good show. So I will post the picture where you can actually see the shirt better. And plus Rob told me, he was like, don't forget to tweet it and tag and use hashtags. I was like, Rob, I know.
Look at that.
I got you.
We have an Instagram.
Right there, we do, and I promise I will update it with more pictures. I've been
I like
I've been slack about getting the New Japan pictures, and I've got GCW pictures. So I still haven't. I keep forgetting I haven't posted my picture with Nick Gage to even my own Twitter yet. I always remember, and it's like, late at night or it's early in the day when it's like my baseball people who are not going to know who Nick Gage is. And I was like, they're not going to appreciate this content. So they don't get the Nick Gage.
Damn,
So,
you've got to be less popular on the internet is what your problem is.
I guess so.
Because, I mean, look at this mess.
But yeah, so I will get better at posting some newer stuff on Instagram.
I think you're doing a lovely job.
Thanks.
I enjoy them.
Yeah,
they pop up at just the right time. It seems like when I'm using Twitter or Instagram, so it's whatever your timing
I'm worried
is,
that it's too late in the day. But apparently,
know that someone is perfectly happy to see a 4:30 post.
Good. Well, and then I have to remember that a lot of people on our network are West Coast based anyway. So even if it is 6 o'clock here, it's 3 o'clock there. So they might see it. So I have to remember my time zones.
I think we've got some Mountain and Central as well.
Yeah, we do. So, well, it'll be there. I'll just post at random times of the day and see who sees what.
Then we're going to talk about time zones today. And,
apparently, listen, I have to do time zone math with my shoot job all the time because my main office is in California, so I'm always having to it's fun trying to set up things with international people and then doing 3 hours subtract. Yeah, time zone math. I hate it.
I have a handy. I found myself an app that
I use a website
where you can flip through it on my phone. But
there's a website that I use, and then I still have to I'm like, okay, it's this time here. And then I have to still figure out what time it is in California. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I hear you.
So that is it for time zones with Powerbombshells.
Time zone with Powerbombshells. We have a broad range of topics.
We do, because we are broad.
Let's get back to wrestling.
Okay. So of course we've been watching what everybody else has been watching with AEW, and we've talked about that. Everybody has talked about pretty much every angle that you can with this, and we're all tired of talking about it. And there's not really any new information. However, I did see one report I saw was the investigation's not going to be over as quickly as it sounded like. There's multiple people that they have to interview. Apparently, MJF is someone who witnessed Brawl Out 2022, and so they'll be interviewing him. And there's other people, so it could be a little bit. It didn't say. It just said it could be a while. I don't know if that means 6 weeks, next week. I don't know what that means.
It means as long as it takes to get the truth.
Yeah, they are
I mean, unfortunately, with these kinds of things, you really do have to go person by person. And I mean, they may have to reach out to some of the media members that were targeted in that situation.
Yeah, it seems like it could be
regardless of good, bad, because
depending on who saw what, it could definitely depends on where their investigation takes them, basically. And it sounds like they're trying to do it the right way and making sure they're covering all their bases, and which is the correct way to handle it. And, I'm glad to see that they are handling it that way. But yeah, so it's definitely it could be a lot longer than we thought, which I guess makes sense. And why, I mean, I understand part of the reason of stripping the titles. Originally I thought it was for punishment, but then I realized, oh, well, if they're going to be off TV for, a month or 6 weeks or something like that, then, they're going to have to do something. And so, they were already going to have Death Triangle versus Best Friends in Orange Cassidy. So they just went ahead and made it a title match, which I think was the right call. As far as the match goes, I love Death Triangle.
That match.
I do. The match was, I got a triple destroyer.
I know.
I got the triple destroyer and was losing my mind.
they like to do the different destroyers.
They do.
They do some really fun variants.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, because they did that.
I just love that. I love them too. I'm so glad that I am not alone in this. They're great. I love those three.
I love
such an unlikely. It's like
you
didn't fit with them.
Nobody does, and it works so well. And I do love Death Triangle very much, and they are one of my favorite trios. However, I feel like Best Friends and Orange Cassidy keep getting overlooked, and They've been the one to, besides I guess the Elite, they've been the one to true trios team this entire time. And so I was, because originally when the Elite won, I was like, okay, well maybe best friends. I mean, we knew the Elite was going to win because Tony was like, I'm not introducing the title, so Kenny comes back. So clearly we knew, but I was like, okay, well maybe best friends and Orange Cassidy will be the one to take it from them when the time comes. And then so when they got that title match, I was like, oh, perfect time. Do it now. Do it right now. Let best friends and Orange Cassidy have it. And then that's not the way it worked out. And again, taking nothing away from Death Triangle, because I do love them and I think they're phenomenal. And now we have Pac as 2-belt Pac. He's the first 2-time champion in AEW, which is fantastic. And I mean, Pac is obviously incredible, so that makes sense for him to have that accolade. But yeah, so I really wanted best friends and Orange Cassidy to get it, but hopefully they'll get it soon because they're fantastic and they're a great trio. And I love that they've added Danhausen, and he fits so well with them, and it's fun. But yeah, but Death Triangle's great too. So, and that was a fantastic match.
Only from like lurking around the internet, like wrestling Twitters and stuff. I think some people feel like the best friends in Orange Cassidy kind of like run their course a little bit. I think
I disagree.
Losing Chris Statlander, and I'm just like,
but Statlander wasn't even part of. I know they just added her. It was the three of them in the beginning. It was them.
I think this is smart because I think it leaves it open for them. There's like there's pay-per-views coming. There's big moments shows coming. Yeah. Those are people.
Well, and they've already hinted at Pac versus Orange Cassidy too. Again, they hinted at that at the pay-per-view.
When he came out and was just like, no.
He said, yeah. And they had a great singles match before. And so we know that they can, I mean, when you look at that, Pac and Orange Cassidy should not have the type of match that they did, but I hope they revisit it. It'll be fun when they do. And so, so I think this was the best possible outcome for this situation, to have them do it. But one of the things that I guess we can talk about the tournament too, and then I'll circle back to the suspensions. But so now we've got this. So now we've got the tournament, obviously, for the interim title, which is, I guess it won't be interim now. It will be the official,
the actual.
So I'm glad we're doing away with the interim titles, at least for right now. Well, I mean,
except
Tony. Yeah, I was gonna say Tony Storm is an interim champion, but so now we have a tournament ending at Grand Slam, which is what I suggested for the women. When I was saying that you didn't have to throw you didn't have to do a quick four-way match. You could have two tournament. We talked about how there could have been a couple tournament matches and crown the women's champion at Grand Slam. Instead, we're doing it with the men. But
wow.
And we got a pre-recorded message, which I was told they didn't have time to do a pre-recorded message with Thunder Rosa because they found out too last minute. But here we are. Because as soon as I saw that pop up, I was like, oh, wow, look who has time to do a pre-taped message.
Weird. It's so weird how
funny. I mean, maybe he filmed it on Tuesday. I don't know. But
he's had a lot on his plate.
He has, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm glad you do, though. See, I think keeping these people on their toes is the only answer.
It is.
You're going to be, like you said, you'll be that girl who's always driving them.
Gonna have to. Because, again, like I said last week, if they're not going to fix it, then somebody's going to have to call them out on it until they do fix it. So they're going to keep getting these questions.
Well, I
whether
mean,
it's for me or somebody.
If you're going to get that sensitive about it, maybe there's a thread of truth in what's going on.
Who knows?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think the real reason that we brought that up, right, was because Kenny's going to be on for a long time.
Yeah, so Kenny's going to be, we don't know how long Kenny's going to be out at this point because we don't know how long the investigation is going to be out. And I saw when he was coming back, I saw some people be like, oh, now he can help the women's division again, because prior to his injury and being at his surgeries and, recuperating and things like that, he was the biggest proponent of women's wrestling in AEW, and he was working a lot with the women. He was helping them with everything basically. And I think since he hadn't been there, he hadn't obviously been as hands-on and things like that. I don't know how involved, if he was involved at all while he was injured, because I know obviously he was also doing the video game stuff too. But now so I saw some people, they're like, oh, he's back, hopefully he can help with the division. Well, first of all, you can't rely on just Kenny Omega to fix what's happening right now. However, he is a big supporter of them and can probably go to bat for them a lot more than certain other people can. But now he's out for who knows how long. And so I don't know how this is going to affect the women's division and how it's going to affect anything that maybe he had planned or he had talked about, or like, I don't know how, because with the suspension, I'm sure he can't be hands-on. I mean, I'm sure if the women needed to text him and ask his opinion on something, I'm sure they could do that, but it's not like he can't pitch ideas, and he probably can't pitch, probably can't tell Tony this is what you need to be doing, because he's not supposed to be working and things of that nature. So I don't know how much of a setback this is going to have on the women's division. They're already, they've been struggling while Kenny was away. This past Wednesday, actually on Tuesday, I sent out a tweet and I was joking about what Dynamite would look like. And I was saying that it was going to be MJF with a live mic, every member of the factory wrestling somebody from Dark from the night before. We would get the 2 matches that were already scheduled. And I said, and there would be a women's match at 9:30 that would last 6 minutes. Well, it was at 8:44, but it lasted just under 6 minutes. It was like 5 minutes and 44 seconds.
Well, at least you got it right.
I did. The one thing I did get wrong was that Nyla did not jump Tony Storm this time.
Yeah,
but Nyla, it was funny. Nyla did joke when they put up the graphic that they tweeted out the graphic that Tony was wrestling Penelope. She said, "Wait, it's not me."
Oh my God!
So even Nyla gets it.
Hey, man, just come on.
Yeah. So
you hired. I mean, didn't they? So they hired Madison Rain, right, to do the women's division.
Yep.
And but she's wrestled like, and I mean, I'm not saying that you don't need to like make her a legitimate.
Yeah, well, because I guess the argument is because look at QT. He does a lot with the backstage side of things, and then he obviously is wrestling pretty frequently and on TV and things like that. But so she's been on.
Have enough other people that QT. I mean, this is like an all hands on deck situation in a kind of way. If you're serious,
yeah.
If you're serious. I mean, they've called men back. I mean, Mox had to cancel his entire vacation that he had planned, which
right. I mean, but they have people coming back from injury and stuff like that, so they could use. I mean, I'm glad they finally used Penelope. They've used her like twice.
Yeah,
she's been from what I understand, she's been cleared at like as long as Kip has been cleared. So I don't know why they weren't using her. I've heard she's been cleared for a while.
Oh,
I don't know.
You know what? That's true because Dave Meltzer has actually mentioned that on more than a few Observer Radios where he's been like, I don't know what the deal is. She's here.
Because they've been, and they've done indie shows too, like in the interim of them not being on TV, like they were in New Jersey, and then Kip, I believe, has wrestled in the UK a few times.
Maybe I don't know if timing thing.
Yeah,
they wanted her to introduce something, or
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. I'm just glad they're using her. Hopefully, they are going to use her more often. They need to, especially Statlander's gone. I think Red Velvet, from what I can gather, apparently is injured as well.
Oh no.
So, which is also another reason to sign Willow Nightingale and just get it done. I saw a tweet last night from Colby. We've write together and have been on stuff, but he watches the show sometimes, and he was saying last night, like, he was like, they need more baby faces. He was like, they don't have enough baby face women. And Phil responded, and he was like, this is why they need to sign Willow. And I was like, exactly, because who is the biggest baby face on the planet? It's Willow. Or at least the biggest unsigned woman baby face. It has to be Willow. I don't know who else it would be. So hopefully they will sign her. But yeah, so I don't know what Kenny. So obviously the women's division is already struggling. We do have an interim champion. Jade's doing her thing. She even mentioned potentially going 50-0.
Yeah, they really seem to be hinting at
Yeah,
what you were,
and so
at least 40,
they could,
if not 50.
yeah. So I mean, they could make it work if they would bring in women from the outside. I mean, bring in, now they clearly still have a relationship with Impact. So bring over Deanna. She does. Oh well, no, she's a tag team champion with Chelsea, but still, you could bring her over. There's Mia Yim. Mickey James said she's trying to, she's doing her last rodeo where she's basically starting from the bottom, and she wrestled Laney Luck last week. So she's wrestling independent women on Impact, or at least in this episode she was. So I mean she's there, and have Jade go against the former champion like Mickey would be awesome. And because they've already had her go against Madison, and Madison is a 5-time knockout champion, and she's a 3-time knockouts tag team division winner too. So then, they could do that with me. So there's women out there if they want to if they want to take the time and pull them off of Dark to face Jade, then they could do it if they wanted to. So so I don't, and I don't know what Tony has planned for the rest of the year, even pre all of this stuff, because he did make on the media call, he kept saying, I have a lot of my big stars back. I want to redo Rampage, and he was like, I want to go back to using like some of the big names on Rampage again. So it sounds like he has some plans in place. I don't know where the women fit into his plan, which I never seem to know where the women fit into his plan. And now that Kenny's not going to be there, I'm a little concerned about it. I mean, I'm concerned all the time. I'm very concerned about what happens when Ring of Honor gets a TV deal, because AEW's women struggle so much. I don't know what in the world he's going to do with the Ring of Honor women. And again, which is why I keep saying to hire Maria to help you out.
Yeah. I will keep agreeing with you, because I think that would be, I'd be very cool and excited to see.
Yeah.
That. I mean, that would just be cool. I just like her.
And
like her
and there is
I don't know her personally or anything.
No, me either.
I've
but
just been following her, and it seems like
now
I'd be willing to give that a try.
At this point, why not? I mean, the point has been made that, Tony is very, if he doesn't like the way things are going, he'll just take it away and do it himself, which he could potentially do in that situation, and that would suck for Maria. But at this point, I think you've got to try something different, because nothing's changing. It's the same thing. And in some cases it's getting worse, because, the women are getting less time. And now we've got this whole interim championship situation with the women and all of this stuff. And they've got a lot that they can work on, and we're heading into year 4 soon. And this has been a problem since early on, and it's not improving. And so they've got to try something different, and hiring someone like Maria, I think, even if it doesn't work out, at least it's showing that you give a damn about the women's division. Yeah. So yeah,
I guess we should just talk about this tournament that should have been a women's tournament, but no. I mean, did I say that? I'm sorry, that's not what I meant.
What? I didn't hear anything.
I didn't say anything like that.
I didn't hear anything.
This tournament for the men's championship for
another tournament for the men. Who could have thought?
Awesome.
And it has a really big name. He likes to name his tournament. He likes to give them very wordy titles. This is the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions, because every person in it has been a champion at least one time.
I feel like I wish that I had the graphic for it, but also go on Twitter, guys. I mean, it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. And so Mox and Jericho, I get, obviously, because Mox was the last champion, and then Jericho was the first champion. They had buys in the first round. So the first round was Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page, and Jericho spoiled it in the
what was he spoiled it?
He spoiled it in the promo he cut right before the match. Because I missed the comment at first, and then I saw a bunch of tweets, and they were like, "Did Jericho just?"
I saw a bunch of people tweet that too,
and then I went back and listened, and he absolutely spoiled it, because he said he was talking about how he beat Danielson at All Out, and he said, "And I'm gonna beat him again next week," and said something like to advance. So yeah, so he spoiled it before the match even.
Ay. And I was going to hear, actually, what I think was so ironic about that is I was going to compliment him on, it seemed like somebody may have gotten to him. I mean, he obviously watches our show, because who doesn't?
Yeah.
And realized that he needed to be more like a ringside broadcaster and less like trying to get himself, because I've noticed.
Apparently, Caprice. Did you hear the audio where Caprice told him to use his inside voice?
That I did catch, and Caprice and him have been awesome, because Caprice
I love
just
Caprice so much.
He just doesn't. He's like the one on there. He's like, I'm on here so rarely, and what are you guys gonna do? And I mean, take me off here, and I guess see what happens. But he's the one that, because he's not a member of the primary staff all the time, he can basically, I mean, tell him things like that. And also, he doesn't have to put up with the like shenanigans. He'll just cut him off. He just cuts him right off.
And because
he's
like, Caprice is
anyway,
there for
so the ROH match that's actually happening in front of us.
That's gonna say he's specifically there for ROH and to make sure that ROH is getting attention. They're not getting buried by Jericho talking about whatever the hell he wants to talk about, or he's just usually putting himself over. So Caprice is like, not on my watch, you're not. He was like,
especially when they don't have an anything. So they're an ambiguous promotion right now that Tony Khan owns with his own money. That's what we know about them. And they fight a lot on most of the stuff that we watch, which is fine because they're great. But also, like, I wish they would do more. I mean, if they're gonna keep doing that, they do need to start explaining things,
right? Like, and they would.
You can't just say recognizing the honor code. It's like, that's great, and I understand what that is. But does the casual, everyday, like new or whatever fan of AEW, like you're trying to build an audience. So you're going to have to explain that stuff at least a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a lot of crossover just because people who before AEW, a lot of them were watching Ring of Honor.
ROH
well,
fans,
if people who had access to it, I should say, because obviously Ring of Honor was hard for some people to get, or like, especially in my case, like I would have access to it and then I wouldn't, and then I'd have access to it and then I wouldn't. So, but yeah, they're, I agree with you. And they're gonna, if they keep, they're, continuing to add to the ROH roster, like they've signed, like we haven't seen since Death Before Dishonor, we haven't seen Dalton Castle and the Boys where they won the tree. I mean, I'm sorry, the 6 man is what the Ring of Honor one is, because Dalton said the trios. He said, how do you know how many people are in it? So Dalton Castle needs to be on TV all the time. So I don't know why he's not. And especially he's a champion now. And so Samoa Joe's finally back from filming his movie. Mercedes Martinez is out with an injury. And somebody pointed out that they didn't even bother to do an interim women's title for Ring of Honor.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that is true. They didn't. They could have done an interim women's title with ROH, and they didn't. But that's not a surprise, or at least not with the women anyway. I'm sure if it had been Claudio's title, there probably would be an interim champion for that too. But I digress.
We're on the clock.
Yes, we are on a clock. So so back to this tournament that Jericho spoiled. Danielson versus Hangman 3 was a fantastic match, even though we knew that was going to end. It is always a good match. They're so good together. And then that was actually Danielson's first win over Hangman.
Nice.
So out of the 3 matches,
I mean, that's good anyway. There was something like nice.
So that was really cool that he got that. So Danielson will move on to face Jericho, as we all know, this Wednesday on Dynamite. And then Rampage opened on Friday night with TNT champions battling out. We had Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. Of course, Sammy was accompanied by Ty Mello. There was a lot of shenanigans as expected. Actually, because these two have wrestled each other so much, they pretty much the first few minutes was just straight up like just wrestling because they have faced each other so many times. And then Ty got involved. Then Anna JAS got involved. So Sammy got the win due to shenanigans as expected. So then we have Sammy will face John Moxley next week. Also on Dynamite. They are not splitting it up and doing one on Dynamite and one on Rampage for whatever reason. They're doing both on Dynamite. But with the endings, there is a possibility that the finals could either be two members of Jericho Appreciation Society. It could end up being Jericho versus Sammy Guevara, or we could also potentially get two members of BCC with Moxley and Danielson. Of course, there is a combination depending on, if Sammy could end up against Moxley, but it looks like we're probably going to get either a Jericho Appreciation Society final at Grand Slam for the championship, or we could get BCC. I'm kind of leaning towards it being, at first I was like, well, they could have Jericho win because Jericho was the first champion. He has stepped up a lot recently.
Yeah.
Mox has also done the same. He's very over. However, Danielson hasn't won a championship in AEW yet. This would be the perfect time for him. And somebody made a good point that it might be Danielson anyway. That way John Moxley can go take his time off that he was planning to take off.
Fair enough.
So
you don't think it's going to be MJF? Because I
think the original plan was that he was going to cash in at Grand Slam and he was going to be champion, but I don't think that's the plan anymore. I don't think he's cashing in a Grand Slam. I think Danielson's gonna win, and I think Danielson's gonna hold it for a little bit, and then they're gonna build a story eventually with MJF and Danielson because they don't have a history together. Because Danielson came in.
Fair enough, yeah. Because that's Moxley have had. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, we could see that, and that's a great."
Well,
feud. I'm like, in fairness, we've seen that feud, and one of my all-time favorite matches on AEW was the MJF Moxley match because they had like a real wrestling match. That was
and that was
up and it was like, "You're getting real wrestling tonight, people."
Yeah, and I believe that Mox was the first person to defeat MJF. I believe that is if I remember correctly. So they do have that story, and I think that they could get to it. So I mean, there is the possibility, I could see the reasons of going with Moxley here, obviously because he's the for multiple reasons. And so I could see that
carry that belt forever. And I don't think anyone would honestly have a problem.
And then he also, speaking of Mox and titles, he's defending his GCW title.
Right.
I believe it's next week. I think it's the 19th. Is it the 19th? Yeah, I think that it is. I know it's this month. I think it's next weekend that he's wrestling Nick Gage on the 1-year anniversary of beating Nick Gage for the GCW championship. So, yes. But yeah, so I could see, I mean, I think maybe they have MJF hold on to it a little bit longer now. And I would like to see Danielson as champion. I would not be mad if John Moxley was champion again. I really don't want Wizard Jericho being a champion. I don't want that. And then I was thinking about it too. I was like, oh, so that could also be Lace-X gods because that's what him and Sammy call each other. That's what they were. So I guess we could get a battle of the Lace-X gods. But I hope that's not what we're getting. I hope we're getting a BCC. Somebody also made the point that they wonder if Garcia cost Jericho his match because he wouldn't come support him last week when he won the Pure Championship, and that maybe Garcia is just he just comes out and is on Danielson's side, maybe not necessarily getting involved, but maybe getting in Jericho's head a little bit and being like,
just sort of standing there and seething.
Yeah. And be like, this is what I wanted you to do for me and you didn't, so now I'm standing.
So I'm going to stand right here and you can wonder what the heck all I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. So that could be interesting too. So they could do a couple different things with it, which I guess is nice that it's not super obvious which direction they're going. They have reasons for why they could go with, I think it will be Danielson, Jericho, or Mox. I don't think Sammy Guevara is going to factor into this other.
Unfortunately, no.
No, I don't. So I think it's going to be I can see reasons for all three men from AEW standpoint. I really don't need another lay champion, and I don't want Wizard Jericho with the title. So let Moxley have his time off and let Danielson have it.
All right, sounds fair.
That's where I stand.
I'm leaning MJF. I don't know.
I mean, like you could be completely
not that
right.
I want him to do it, but my feels are that like my just
bold, that was my original, like as soon as like
my not so bold prediction is okay, they're gonna put the bat.
Yeah.
It's like you wanted it. It was part of like the thing that
it could
theoretically was something about
right.
Or they were just playing into that. But I mean, either way, like let him. Fine, okay. You want to be the face of the company, and you want to do all this stuff, and you want to prove that you're like the bidding war of 2024 and all that crazy crap. Prove it then.
Oh, that was great. Put your
poker chip where your mouth is.
Oh, and did you also, another thing that adds a little tiny layer to this was Friday night, MJF tweeted the one finger emoji like this, which is what the Bloodline uses. Nice. So people are like, oh, he acknowledged the Bloodline, which clearly he knows what he's doing. But and then his tweet about Ringside News was really funny though. That made me laugh when he tweeted about something about how they're like the only true reporters out there. Whatever trolling comment he made. So I was like, oh, well, he's going to be fun now that he's back on Twitter. So he'll be interesting. So maybe that is the route they go. And then it seems kind of like maybe they're moving Stoke away from him. Like Stokely was like, we used to work together back in the day. I'll help you here. I'll come back and collect on that favor later. I'm over here with my guys. And so it's interesting. Whenever Stoke is on TV, he's extremely interesting. So even it's the most random group of men that he has collected that he's given his card that have taken him up on his offer. So I really do like Ethan Page and Lee Moriarty together. I don't know where the Ass Boys fit into this equation, but with Stoke there, I'm sure it could be interesting. And so I don't know quite where that's going, and maybe there was some changes after
maybe they'll all destroy each other in a giant rumble, and they'll cull a bunch of people out of there and throw some of their other talent in that they have, and just start a whole new thing.
There you go. As long as Stoke is in charge and on TV, that's the main thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, so he's engineering the whole thing, like almost on a Don Callis like level.
Please keep Don Callis away from JR. Thank you. please do. All right. So other than AEW, we have been getting into a little bit of New Japan. I took a little bit of a break, not on purpose, after the G1. It just kind of happened, and they're doing their Burning Spirit show. And Burning Spirit, is that what it's called?
Yes, Burning Spirit.
Yes. Okay. So I knew. So they were doing that. I'm like, apparently they're like night 6. I've watched a tiny little fraction. I've watched one match from that. So we had finally. It's not at all the shows, right? It's just.
Wow. I think some what Kevin Kelly. Try again. Kevin Kelly said that there were some buildings that were not going to be allowing the screaming because they didn't have the capacity because they're doing social distancing with the yelling. Mm-hmm. Most of the people I saw in the audience were wearing masks anyway, so it made no difference. Even he made a little sort of like backhanded, it'd be great if I, as the host, didn't have to wear one because... when I'm at home recording, I don't have to because he's at home right now. So, okay. But I mean, Corkin's really big. I think Budokan's going to have it. But I think some of the smaller
venues. Okay.
ones.
Yeah,
are
that's what
usually-
I thought that it seemed to be, because they kicked the tour off on September the 2nd and they did not have cheering, I believe, at that show, but I think it was the September 5th show at Cork and Hall is where it began. And obviously if you are a New Japan fan, you know that Cork and Hall is a very big deal to them, and it's a really important,
It's a huge venue.
and it's really important. It's basically, I mean, besides the Tokyo Dome, that's their big.
It's Korakuen, Sumo, and Budokan are like the three, and
right, and then like I think Osaka-jo Hall's, but the Osaka-jo Hall is small, right? That's one of the smaller ones, I think.
It is, I think, but it's, I don't, you know what? I'm not sure on that one. I don't want to
right.
I'm just not sure, but I know that the sort of bigger ones are, because even in some, I mean, Corgan's got like an actual history where like the Sheik wrestled in Corgan back in the day.
Oh wow, yeah. So it definitely has some history.
Back in the day.
Yeah, so it's so it's a really big deal for them to be able to cheer, and I know that was like the big thing. So I watched
it's a big thing for me because holy god, they're back. I love Hiromu doing the
that's what I was just gonna say. That was because I hadn't heard, I knew what the first match was, which is why I was watching or went back to watch, but I didn't hear that Hiromu was actually the first person to address the crowd, and I don't think there's a more perfect person to bring energy because he came out and was running laps. He was screaming at the top of his lungs.
He gave everybody a little how-to on how to cheer and what their job was again. Like after he dropped off Daryl, he got in the ring and was like, okay, you guys remember how to do this, right? 1, 2, 3, and he was getting everyone to do it. And ringing the bell, and I was having so much fun. Even I love at one point where Kevin Kelly just straight up was like, I'm sorry I'm not saying anything. It's just so awesome to sit here and revel in this. And I was like, it is, cool. Kevin Kelly. Yeah,
because it's been 2.5 years.
I know.
That's insane. And, we've talked about it before that some of the Japanese wrestlers were getting to come to America and even in the UK and different places like that. So they were able to hear cheering. And I can only imagine what that was like for them to hear that after so long, but then to hear it at home from, the Japanese fans, I'm sure is a completely other level.
Are better. I had a friend and I were talking this week and we were like, resituating good matches from like AEW, but wanted them in front of the Japanese fans.
Oh,
and it was like, this would be this much better. And it was like, and this is already so much better. But it was like, I would watch that match 20 times in front of the Japanese fans.
Right.
I don't know why. It's like they probably because, and I think that maybe like you saw this at Forbidden Door because it's like it's the knowledge of like where your role is in the situation.
Right,
I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And also just they surely enjoy it, and I do too. And
it was great to hear, and then like I mean, they cut over to Milano and he's like dabbing tears away, and I was like, and Kevin Kelly was like, well, it is really emotional, like they haven't been able to do this for 2.5 years and things have been so different, and they're finally getting this moment, which is fantastic. And so you really see, and it was funny, I saw before the burning shows started that Chris Charlton tweeted and was like, when will Tanahashi start crying? And somebody was and it was like when the bell rings, during the match, something else, and then afterwards, and I have something like that. And somebody was like, he's going to be crying the whole time. And he's like, I know, but the question is, when will he start? Then he will cry. But then apparently he held it together until the backstage comments, from what Chris Charlton said.
Wow.
He held it together. Oh,
that's
apparently,
nice.
But there was a quote saying, there was some quote from Milano saying that because Tana wasn't back there or something, he was like, oh, Tana's probably in a bathroom stall crying. I was like, oh, that's great. So
I don't blame him.
No, I don't either. So apparently, but we know Tana can be an emotional guy. So my prediction was like as soon as he got out there, but apparently maybe because he's had a little bit of exposure to American fans, maybe he's not that he's used to it. So maybe that's why he was able to hold it together until he got backstage.
I got this.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe he's like, let me hold it together through the match, which apparently he did. But then, so the very first match that fans got where they can cheer was Bad Dude Tito versus Minoru Suzuki. And I was like, yes. I was like, now the fans can sing as well. And they
loudest, we call it the loudest Kaze ni Nare in maybe ever in the history of New Japan.
It's gotta be. I mean, it was phenomenal. And, and even, Kevin Kelly pointed out, he was like, he's been wrestling in all over America and he's been wrestling in the UK and people sing to him all the time. And so, this is really important, to the fans to be able to sing to him. And so, and he was like, and now the Japanese fans finally, after all this time, get to sing to him, and so they get to be in on it. And I was like, because I can imagine as a Japanese fan, if they're watching any of the American shows or even any of the British shows and they're getting to see, I'm sure they're like, man, I wish I could sing for Suzuki. And so I was really cool to see, and I'm sure it warmed his little black heart to see.
He looked like he was having an amazing time.
He did.
I mean,
well,
I almost shed a tear on that one.
It was great. And well, and it was just the expectation and just like waiting for it and knowing we were going to get it. So I thought that was really cool. And I thought Tito was a really good choice because Tito really got himself over during the G1 and doing the tag team matches with Jonah. And so he really endeared himself towards the fans, kind of in the same way that Royce Isaacs did with Tom Lawler. And so to see Tito get that spot and to have, because Tito hasn't done a whole lot in New Japan yet. I mean, obviously in Strong, but like that's huge for him. And that to have Suzuki, first of all, and to have him in that moment
in that time,
that's a big deal to have. They must think very highly of Tito to put him in that position. They could have put Suzuki versus anyone and they chose Tito. So I thought that speaks volumes of what they think about Tito and of what the fans think, because the fans really, because when he came out, like the fans were really into it. And of course, because they can they can cheer now, but like they really seemed to enjoy what Tito does. And so I thought, and it was a violent match like I expected. I mean, like he threw Suzuki like into the barricades, and Suzuki had like a pink like red mark like up under his rib cage, and like it stayed red the whole entire match. Like he hit him hard. And so I think that was another thing that Suzuki was probably like, just hit me as hard as you can, because that's what we do here. But I thought it was a really great match, and it was short. It was like, I think Kevin said it was 8 minutes. I think.
It didn't overstay its welcome. It was perfect.
And Suzuki got the win, but Tito got to get. Tito got his spots in, and he got to show that, he can go toe to toe with Suzuki, which I thought was really cool. And so it seems like TMDK is going to be a big part of both Strong and New Japan itself. And so I think
I kind of love
because Jonah's there, Shane Haste is there. Is Mikey Nichols in Japan as well? I know Shane Haste is, but is Mikey also there? I haven't kept up.
I don't know.
Because I haven't really kept up with what matches are happening, so I'm not sure. I know that Shane Haste had a match with, I think he and Jonah tagged. I think
Shane Haste did have a match with Jonah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Most of this there's very little singles match.
Yeah, it's a lot of
this. I think it's more of a welcome back to wrestling.
Yeah,
let's see some of the people that have held us together during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's like an appreciation show. Almost
matches. I think it's to get house shows back started, get people more comfortable with the idea. I hope. It's so hard to know because like the difference in the way that everything is handled is hopefully what will go on is that some of the smaller venues will see it. The big venues are okay. And the response from the fans. One of the great points that Kevin Kelly made, this place is sold out. There isn't a seat left in this place.
Right.
People wanted to come back and cheer.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And plus, there's been a time. I mean, we had Best of Super Juniors tournament. We had G1 over the last year.
And then
a lot of those people got over. Jonah almost got fans in trouble during the G1 because they were like audibly making noise because they were so like ooey and ah.
Especially when Jonah, when he pinned Okada, like that was a reaction that you can't, because it was unexpected.
They couldn't.
So you
can't couldn't. They were plain old humans who love wrestling. We just can't help ourselves. Now you don't. I mean, when you're in these bigger places, you don't have to. I do think that may carry some weight. Also, if these places are taking a small hit to social distance, but they're making all this money because there's not a seat available. I mean, I know that's tougher for a smaller venue, but it also isn't, because people are going to spend more money, and it's as they start to, hopefully these are the kinds of things that help the country see that you can, it's not perfect, and by no means should people be letting their guard down. If you feel sick, you should have the vaccinations. You should be wearing, I wear a mask in certain situations just because I know that the people I'm around have children or whatever your personal reasoning is. Most of those people have masks and they're screaming anyway. So, and I think that is still going to make some difference.
No, and you can see, like, when they were, like you said, the crowd was still wearing masks and they were cheering with their masks on and things like that. So, like, they're still taking precautions, even though they're allowing cheering. And of course, that will, if I'm sure they're going to be keeping an eye on COVID numbers after the wrestling shows and things like that. But, if they're lower, then, that might be something that helps them to get closer. Because I know, I know obviously there's going to, because this is like Road to Burning Spirit, but I think, isn't there a big show in October?
Yes, there is something coming up. I just can't
remember the name of it. I heard them say it last night when I was watching, but I didn't catch what it was. And it was is Okada back for that match? I think maybe.
I think so.
I think Okada's back. And then of course in November, they're doing they're having the big show with Stardom. They're also going to be having the New York show as well. So they've got a lot of big things coming up leading up to Wrestle Kingdom. So hopefully, because hopefully they can get to the point where Wrestle Kingdom.
By the time they get to Wrestle Kingdom, they're in the Tokyo Dome.
Right.
There's plenty of room if you're still social distancing by then.
Yeah. That they can make it work, I hope.
Did they say they were going back to one night, or was that WrestleMania?
No, it's one night, because Wrestle Kingdom will be one night, and then New Year Dash is already scheduled for the following night.
Next night, they did, like they used to do.
Right.
I mean,
so it's finally back to one night. No, because WrestleMania is still 2 nights next year, and they've like sold like really well.
Really, that's right. I forgot.
They sold like a bunch of but
I knew the answer. I just
no, I know, it took me a second too. I'm like, wait, what was that? So yes, and then also on the Strong side of things, like they're back in action too, and they're done with the Charlotte show that I was at, and they've moved back to the Hollywood shows, which were filmed a couple weeks ago. So I watched Strong last night. I don't know if you had a chance to.
I got yesterday's.
So that episode
overnight, the one that dropped. The first one from LA was awesome.
Yeah, I have the matches written down. So the first match was Mascara Dorada versus Mysterioso, who they call Big Papi Pump. He comes out.
Was getting a kick out of that.
I love that, because he came out with he has on like his bright purple, like almost pastel, like purple and green, or like neon green that he comes out in, but then he has the head chain like Big Papa Pump, and Alex Kozlov was calling him Big Papi Pump, and so I thought that was great. I loved it.
Alex Kozlov, from the very beginning, when he was like telling Ian Riccaboni that he had shades on, even it's like he's wearing glasses. I'm like, Alex Kozlov seems like so. You know when you're happy and you just do silly things?
Yeah, like trying to get Ian Riccaboni to unbutton his shirt 2 buttons like him.
Yeah, he was really, I really think he was very happy to have that
I think
in
so.
LA, and I think the LA feel and a different, bouncing around. Strong is big.
It is. And they get and it seems like they get a really big turnout every time they're in Hollywood at that venue. So it seems like they do really well there. And that was a really fun match. And it's not and Mascara Dorado has been doing a couple of things. Like he was on Impact. Was it last week before? It might have been the week before.
It was sometime in the last 2 to 3 weeks, because I have watched 2 out of 3 weeks and I can't remember in which
one of the weeks I missed because my DVR did not record it, and then it's also not on demand, but I think it's because Access worded it, because I think Access, we noticed one of the things, it said Pro Wrestling instead of Impact, and so I think that's why it didn't record, is because Access, however, I don't know, I guess how they enter things or whatever. So I didn't get to see that show from 3 weeks ago, and so I missed that one.
JD and Mike, we missed it.
So Mascara Dorado was on, I believe, the episode after that I did get to see, and he's fantastic, and they call him the king of the ropes for a reason, because that is a very apt nickname for him. Oops, sorry. And he was really great. And the match with Mysterioso was a lot of fun. And like Mysterioso caught Mascara Dorado like right out of the air, and kept him somehow kept him from their momentum from like tumbling through the barricade behind them. So that was insane. And Mascara picked up the win, but it was a really fun match and I really liked it. And then they followed up with another excellent match, and it was Robbie Eagles' first New Japan Strong match in like over a year. They kept saying 2 years, and then I heard them say later that it was actually a year. And Alex, I think he said to Ian, did you just miss him that much that you thought it has been 2 years since
you felt that long to me?
That it had been
so long.
Apparently so. And so then but he faced off against Kevin Blackwood, who is fantastic. And I
saw Kevin Blackwood on my GCW card randomly.
Yeah, and I saw him in GCW. That's what I was like, I saw him too.
I know who this is. I'm so excited. So I was really excited to see him. He did a great job.
Him and Robbie, like he nearly had Robbie.
Yeah.
He almost got the upset. It was that was a fantastic
definitely
match.
Took advantage of like being in that position.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, because I just remembered him from GCW. That's how good I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this guy. Great.
Yeah. He's really good. He's really underrated.
Awesome.
So I'm glad that he's getting some time in New Japan, because he's really good. I really like him.
The best place to get.
Yeah, and then Robbie Eagles is just
awesome.
he's awesome. He's fun, and he definitely got me with the Robbie chants, and I was still saying it like an hour later. I realized I was just walking around saying Robbie, and I was like, okay.
It happened.
And it's funny because the Braves have a player named Robbie Grossman, and so I heard it, and I think that's what it triggered it again. So now I was like, oh, now I'm just gonna probably start saying it every time I see him at the plate. I'm probably gonna just start chanting, especially because he's doing really well for the Braves right now. So it's like, now I'll just Robbie chant him at home.
We all do it.
And then for the main event, we got Aussie Open defending their newly won tag team titles for the first time against the West Coast Wrecking Crew, which is Jor-El Nelson and Royce Isaacs. And first, before we get to the match part of it, I just want to say that I love their gear so much. They have leopard print on their trunks, and then they have black fringe. That hangs off of it. Because at first I thought it was
guys.
At first I thought it was, they really are. And at first I thought it was just Royce, because he came out with a fringe leather jacket.
Royce has leveled up.
He has. Like, I think going to Japan just put him on that level. Him up. It did. And then he's like, he brought Jor-El up with him. He's like, oh no, if we're a tag team, you gotta come.
May not have been like an overall level, but he definitely leveled up on his skill or something. Like his persuade or charisma score went up.
He
huge
did.
in
Yeah.
Japan.
I think
It's
Japan
awesome.
I think Japan just gave him even more confidence because
It was
he's
awesome.
so much fun to watch. Like, yeah, him and Jarrell were, God, they were great. They were really good against Aussie Open. Like, I mean, they could have had an upset and had Aussie Open losing their first title defense. And I think Alex Kozlov thought a couple times that might happen because they came close to it a few times. Like, they were just hitting on all cylinders last night in that match against Aussie Open. And Aussie Open they're obviously
they're all over right now, and they're wrestling a lot of good teams.
They're phenomenal. Yeah, they were on.
I mean, how good can this really be? And those guys were like, oh, this good.
Yeah, because one of my friends watches a lot of I don't know how much, if he's still watching as much British wrestling as he had been watching, but Aussie Open was one of his favorite tag teams, and so like when they got brought into New Japan, he was like really excited about it. And of course, like he wasn't at the Charlotte show, but I asked him, I was like, do you want me to spoil who won? And he was like, yes. And so I just sent him a picture of them holding the titles, and he was like, yes. He was like, thanks. But yeah, and he was like, I love them so much, and he was like, I wish they weren't in the United Empire. And I was like, me too.
But United Empire is becoming one of those factions you love to hate.
I'm ready. I just want them to kick Will Ospreay out and TJP, and then we'll be good to go.
TJP is like, this is like the best wrestler he's ever been. I mean,
I suppose. I don't like him, but yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, Aussie Open, and going back to Impact, Aussie Open was just on Impact last week. They wrestled Chris Bay and Ace Austin. They kicked off the show, and
I must have seen that one because all of these matches that you're saying, I'm like, I saw that match.
Was really good. Aussie Open's fantastic. I really like them a lot, and I think they were.
Bob's been closing on Thursdays. That's what it
gotcha.
is.
So you've been able to catch up. Yeah.
It ends up that because of the time that he comes on, like, I need something to fill this, and it's like, wait, Impact's on. I'll throw Impact on.
There you go. And and Impact's been having some good stuff.
It's been good the last their last probably 5 weeks in a row or something.
Yeah, their ratings have. It's sad because the ratings have not reflected that, but they're wrestling. They've been doing really well. There's been a lot of really good matches, and they've been bringing in like so many people. And like next week we're getting Good Brothers versus Motor City Machine Guns. And I didn't realize until they said it during the promo, they have never wrestled each other in a tag team match. They've wrestled each other as singles before, but Good Brothers versus Motor City has never happened before, which is insane.
I'm here for it.
So that match is happening next week. But yes, so and it seems like Aussie Open's going to be doing some more matches with them as well. So I really have enjoyed that. But yeah, that last night's episode of Strong was really good, and like we talk about all the time, there's always great matches. And next week I think is the title match with Fred Rosser versus TJP is next week. I don't remember what other matches are going to be on there, but that was one of the matches that was the one that was teased in Charlotte, and the fans were telling TJP, they were criticized, that one fan was heckling him. So that match is happening next week. And I don't know.
So when I was watching it, because I wrote that down, the TJP thing, and then I wrote down that they also talked about Chase Owens and Jay White being on the show as well.
Oh, okay.
So I knew that they did.
Okay. Yeah. So I remembered seeing like when they were releasing the matches that were coming up, I do remember seeing Jay White on the poster. So
yeah, they were at the very end. I caught it almost. Gotcha. I was like,
okay,
make sure you're listening so I could jot it down.
Yeah, I completely missed that part. I heard the TJP stuff, so I missed that. So yeah, well, and anytime Jay is in Strong, Jay is with the US of J.
He sells everything out.
He does. And then now we have the US of J is back on.
Yeah, apparently. Let's go.
And the USFJ was really fun the last time he was here doing all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to whatever he's doing next. And I don't know when it's happening, but Shota versus QT is supposed to be coming up, because that's the match. That's the one where Charlotte at the Charlotte show that Shota showed up and he challenged QT. And so we didn't get the match, but we got to see him, and Nikki and I were losing it when we realized who it was.
As well, you should have been.
Yeah, I really, really wish we, even if even if it had been against QT, I really wish we had gotten the Showdown match, but I'm just glad we got to see him. And so I was really excited for that. So that match, I don't know if that's on next week's show, but I saw them promoting it recently on Twitter. So it may be next week's show if they're already starting to promote it. But yeah, so Strong is doing well, and they're getting.
And now we're able to catch up again because
and I think Tom Lawler was at these. I want to say Tom Lawler was at these tapings as well. I think so.
I think so, because I think Brian Alvarez was talking about Tom being at the LA.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on that show. But then there was also somebody who was at that show who had no business being there. But we'll get to that when it airs.
All right. Yeah. So
yeah, they brought
coming back
because they brought in somebody they should not be bringing in, but he has a contract, so. Yeah. Yeah, it was not it did not actually. Somebody that we follow each other on Twitter was at the tapings, and he tweeted a picture of it, and that's how word got out that this person got booked, and he got lots of quote tweets and they were not good quote tweets. People were very mad.
That should be fun.
People were very mad at New Japan, and they should be. I was very mad at New Japan when I saw it, and yeah, it was not good. I guess I can just say who it was because they brought in Chris Dickinson.
Oh, that's okay. I did know that.
Yeah, so because he's contracted, so they brought him in, and it did not go over well. So I don't know what they'll do from there, but yeah, fans were very angry, as they should be at that situation. So I don't know. But so they haven't promoted. Well, actually, you know what? I guess I know why they didn't promote it, because he didn't have a match. He was just there and did a segment. But yeah, so they obviously are probably not going to hype that. Probably not going to promote it. So that he may be on next week's episode, or maybe, I don't know, because they film obviously 4 episodes at a time. So I'm not sure, but yeah, that'll be happening. And I'm sure when it does air, Twitter is going to get mad again. And so, and as they should. But yeah, so there's that. Let's see.
So watch out for that flaming Twitter, guys.
Well, you will see it from me, because I already did when I saw it. So yeah, but otherwise, New Japan Strong is really good and has been doing some really awesome stuff. And it's like we say all the time, it's an hour. It goes by really quickly.
Barely an hour.
It's 3 matches. They do 2 matches. They take a quick break to like clean the ring and stuff, and then they get into your main event, and that's it. Like it goes fast, and it's good matches. Nothing really lags or anything like that. And we've talked about before, they have matches on paper, and then they're like, oh, that'll be good. And then sorry. Apparently my microphone is getting jealous that I'm talking about good matches and not our feud.
Wow, too bad.
So it's being noisy, and I apologize. I'm trying to get that feedback out of here. But yeah.
It's good, and you should watch it, and it always surprises me, and it's people like Daniel Garcia and Buddy Matthews and people like that who come through there where you're all of a sudden you're like, oh my god. And I love that feeling where like you get to see Fred Rosser, you get to see Finn, you're like, oh cool. And then when they do actually make the rounds with Impact or end up on Dynamite, something like that.
Yeah, it's really cool to see.
Awesome. You feel good, and you feel connected to something that's really important with them, because I am going to plug my earphones back in because they just came undone because I'm a hand talker. Anyway, but yes, you get to, really enjoy. It's so short.
It is. Like, and it goes by, like we said.
It's short like Dark. I know Dark's a little longer than it, but it has like that feel to it because of the charisma that those two bring to the ringside. And then all the wrestling matches are good. They're always good.
Yeah, it's always good. Even if there's a match you're like, I don't know about this. I'm not really one way or another about it. And then you're like, oh, why was I ever questioning it? Because it's New Japan Strong, and they will always bring it. And so there's always good stuff. And I'm glad to see them back. And the Charlotte show was a lot of fun, and it was really cool to see all that. So it's nice to see. It's also cool just to see the continuations of stories that started here and things like that, especially like seeing things about like Aussie Open winning the titles, and then being able to see their first defense last night. So That's always fun to see, like, the continuations. And like, I didn't even realize until, I don't remember if I mentioned this on one of the other shows or not, because I didn't find out until the show had been taped, but that Fred Rosser versus Fred Yehi made history. They were the first two black men to compete for a title in New Japan, which I didn't know at the time because the match was already great, because I love Fred Yehi. I'm a fan of Fred Rosser. And so that was cool. And so I was like, I enjoyed the match anyway, but then knowing that layer of history, like, to be there and to have been able to witness it was really cool. So yes.
Watch New Japan Strong.
Yeah.
And
this is not an ad.
This is not an ad.
This is not an ad. Just watch it.
Watch it. And I am gonna I wanted to follow up on something that we had talked about previously. I actually finished the book, Blood and Fire, the story of wrestling's original Sheik, Brian Solomon, who was kind enough to speak with us on Twitter when we talked about his book the last time. The reason I wanted to mention it real quick, honestly, is because I was kind of a sad panda about the backstage bananas that went on, because that's old school wrestling territory stuff. And having just come off reading an old school territory book, that, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and you should definitely read it, because you get to learn about, I mean, for me, it was great. It was double, because I get to learn about the area I live in through wrestling. And
which is really cool.
Because we always talk about wrestling reflects life. And I mean, even like the parts of the reasons that Big Top went belly up had to do with things like socioeconomics here, where in the 70s, a lot of people lost their jobs, and, you know, because the auto industry kind of crashed out and all these different things. But also sort of, you get these little pictures of these people, what they did actually give back to communities, and what they gave to, you know, the book, especially someone like Rob Van Dam, who back in the day was really special doing what he was doing, and learned from the Sheik. And you find these, like, I mean, that's a little bit of a spoiler, but he at the end, when he did finally realize that the game was up for him, tried to find a handful of young guys to pass on his knowledge to, and to have the wherewithal at the end of everything, and after all he had been through. And I mean, I highly recommend this book if you're interested. It's the stuff between him and Dick the Bruiser, sort of the, like, Ohio, this part of Canada, Toronto, and the surrounding area, and the Detroit intrigue was very interesting. It also made me really, like, it gave me bad feels about that backstage brawl, because that is something that you would see from a drowning company in the 70s. And it made me, so I was like, grr.
It just shows you that, like, it's like we've talked about before, you know, it comes from the carnies, and so it's been wrestling.
The legacy continues.
This backstage stuff has been around since wrestling's been around, and it's going to continue to be around as long as wrestling is there, because, you know, people wrestling, or somebody was talking about, wrestlers are weird, and they just
they're performers. People need to remember that they're half actor. And anybody who's ever worked with any form of actor, whether it's in live, and this, in my case, I've worked with live actors in theater, so I get and I know. I have, over my weird travels, have learned to know performers at actual festivals, and I know how these people get treated, so I get where it comes from. But also, they're half actor. A lot of them end up in the Hollywoods for a reason. I mean, we just have some
it's just one
coming back from a TV show.
Exactly.
And Miro too, and they're still active.
Exactly. So it definitely, you see that, and it just goes back to that old saying: the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because it's a tale as old as time.
But overall, I mean, again,
Yeah.
the big point there that I want to make is definitely recommend the book. Definitely appreciate Brian Sullivan. What's
real.
cool is that the stuff that we talked about, and we did talk about the book a little more extensively, he actually like talked back to us about it.
Yeah,
so
he did. That was really cool.
It's really nice to know that I think he does some time on some podcasts and stuff. So great book. Big shout out. Thanks for helping me get to know my area a little bit better.
That's such a cool way to get to know
now
it.
I have
That's really cool.
It really was. I know that you would appreciate like if someone wrote a thing about where you live and stuff.
Yeah. And I've read like a couple of things. Like I read Flair's autobiography a while back, so obviously a lot of that stuff took place in Charlotte, and so like there's stuff like
your
that.
Territory. I would love reading a history book about your territory.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would like a book on, and maybe there's one out there, and I need to look into it. But like if there was a book kind of like the way that Solomon wrote about your area, if somebody wrote something like that about the Charlotte area, just because there's so much history here.
So much.
So much history. Like
so much that it invaded my book a great deal.
Yeah. Like, it's insane. And it overlaps. And so I would love to read.
No, there's always a wrestling nerd out there who's written a book about something.
Sure.
Like, I mean, and I like the idea that he used a very special Chris Jericho can throw fireballs all he wants to. The only reason he knows that that's a thing is because the Sheik did it first. So.
Which is incredible that they are relying, in 2022, we're still relying on things that they were doing back in the 70s to get, to do stuff. So
I mean, he was doing that. Actually, then this one's even funnier. Like he was doing that stuff in like the 60s.
That's crazy.
Into the 70s. Yeah. And what's funny about it is that because commissions still were trying to regulate pro wrestling.
Sure.
Fighting deal,
right?
Is that in some places he wasn't allowed to throw the fireball.
Oh yeah, well I guess not.
It was against commission rules. But he was such a crazy dude that he would sometimes not in the ring, but somewhere else, and just do this. It's really awesome. Wrestlers, bless you for always
different
being
breed.
You.
You're a different breed. Yes.
But
yeah.
Right on.
So I guess we have a little announcement to make that we'll get in here real quick. Yeah. So next week is episode 30. Yay. So thank you.
30.
We are. Seems like we just turned 21 and had our drinks. And just turned 25 to rent a car.
Oh no, we're in our 30s. This is where shit gets real.
Yeah, it does. So we'll be on episode 30 next week. And again, thank you for whether this is your first episode or you've been with us all 29 and you'll be with us next week. Next week, we are actually going to do another live stream. Yay! And
we love live streams.
We do. And so we're going to see what happens when we do a live stream that's not about a pay-per-view recap. Let's see. You probably get to see me fight with my microphone live on air.
Oh, you know what? That helps legitimize the feud. And when we submit it to Dave.
Yeah. For Feud of the Year. Yes. Then we can send them clips from the live stream.
And just remember is that if enough people do it, he'll list it in there. So if we could get enough people to do it, it would be listed. Because he lists the stuff that gets even if it gets 4 votes or something. I mean, if enough people get in there. So
Wrestling Observer Feud of the Year, here we come. We're coming for our next week with our live stream.
We're getting into that black and white print. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll probably this was a kind of a decision that just came about, so we'll figure out all the details, but I assume we'll probably go around our normal time, which is 1:00 Eastern time. So sorry that if you're watching football or baseball, you can have it on the background like I do.
Or do the smart thing, you pause it, and then that way you can fast forward to the ads.
Yes.
Until you get caught up, because you're going to inevitably get caught up because the game's going on forever.
See, that's a great plan.
Get out of seeing that stupid Progressive commercial 68 times.
And then you get to see all the pizza commercials and leftover Super Bowl commercials that they start kind of recycling back in.
Yep.
So Yeah, so
It'll
we'll be
give you
live.
something to distract you.
Yes, so we'll be live next week. We'll just make sure you're following all of our social media because we'll tweet it and we'll put it on. I promise I'll put it on Instagram. I put the last live stream on there, so I'll make sure I'll put this
I like
one.
that. I like to do that.
So we will do that. Obviously, make sure that you're subscribed to the Fight Game Media YouTube channel so that you can see and you'll be able to set a notification so that you do not forget while you're watching football or baseball. And you'll get a nice little alert that'll be like, hey, Powerbombshells is live with their 30th episode. I'm going to go watch that right now. So make sure you
get my comment read on the air.
Yes, you can get your comment read on the air because we do have Super Chat activated. And so you should be able to see a little.
And if you want to do that too.
Yeah, you'll see there's a little dollar sign and you can donate whatever amount of money and we will read it and we'll pin it. And then if you say mean things, you have to pay us more.
Sam, I think put the minimum at $25.
That is the minimum.
After this weekend, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it might have to go.
It might be a little bit of a sliding scale.
Well, and it's our 30th episode, so maybe I'll make you pay me $30 to read your mean message.
Actually, you know what? I think that's a solid plan. I think $30 if it's and no hate speech, none of that kind of thing.
No.
Just mean comments.
Because if you put hate speech, we're just gonna keep your money and we're not gonna read it.
If you're gonna pay, we're just not gonna read that. But if it's just mean, maybe I'll read it in a funny voice or something.
Yeah, we can do that. But so who knows what will happen next week on the live stream? We might have
you definitely need to go do this.
We might have a fight between me and my microphone live next week. You never know what can happen on a live show. So yeah.
It makes it so exciting.
Make sure that you tune in next week for that. Thanks for hanging out with us for 29 episodes, or if this is your first episode or maybe your fourth, or you just pop in whenever. We appreciate your support and make sure you're following us on social media and also Fight Game Media, because there's a lot of people out here putting out really good content for you. There's a lot of really great free content on the YouTube channel. There's a Patreon that's $5 a month and they're putting out weekly content on all the shows.
Basically get the free guy. You get a free thing and then you get like a bonus thing with the same people you like on the free thing. So it's actually kind of cool because you get all this fun free content and then for literally $5 a month, which I'm saying it because I already I paid
me too.
I like the bonus stuff too. So
so we agree. So you should do that.
Our fellow nerds put out other wrestling.
And there's content. There's stuff on Impact. There's stuff on AEW. There's stuff on WWE. There's stuff on New Japan. There's even MMA stuff. So there's
even indie wrestling stuff.
Yeah, there's Joshi stuff on there. There's all kinds of cool stuff. So for $5, you get access to a variety of things, which is really cool. So subscribe to that. Make sure you come watch us next week. Join us live. Come hang out with us and come chat with us. And like I said, keep an eye on the social media and you'll see exactly what time we're going to go live. And you'll have the link so that you can be reminded. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.